Todos los asistentes están en modo de solo escucha.
Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to our today's webinar, why Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel are not a good requirement tool. My name is Jose Muñoz and I'm a senior requirements consultant in Visual Requirements. In the current webinar, in today's webinar, I will be explaining all of you why under my experience, Word and Excel are not probably the best tool, even though they are probably the most common tool for managing requirement. Okay, but we will be focusing today on what are the lacks, what are the limits when using Word and Excel for managing requirements. Okay. Before starting with today's webinar, I would like to first of all introduce the GoToWebinar interface for those of you that are not familiar with it. As you can see in the right part of the screen, you should have a tab with the different controls for managing the webinar. Take into account that all of you are currently mute in the current webinar in order to avoid noises in the line. However, all of you have got a question section that you may use to post any questions that may appear during the webinar. And at the end of the webinar, we will have a section for questions and answers that I will be using for answering those questions that you may post from now on. Okay. Additionally, we are recording this webinar and we will be uploading that afterward to the different medias on the internet, YouTube, Vimeo, any other channel for storing videos. Okay, so with that being said, let's start directly with today's webinar. Okay, the agenda for this webinar is going to be the following one. First of all, we are going to introduce a very light introduction in Visual Solution, our company. Just I promise a couple of slides in order to set the background of our company, and after that we will jump directly to the webinar, to today's subject, which is going to be the requirements. Okay, we will be explaining why the requirements are so important in today's project for both software and system engineering. And after that, once we have stated that the requirements are really important, something that probably all of you are already aware of, but anyway, after that, we will be just moving forward to the main topic of today's webinar, which is, okay, if my requirements are important, why I shouldn't be managing them with Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. Okay. Finally, after that, I will be conducting a short demonstration of today's of our tool. Okay. Just give me a second because apparently some people is having problem with watching the slides. There we go. Let's try to share my screen again. And let me see. There you go. So now you should be able to watch it properly according to the interface, the GoToWebinar interface. Sorry for any for any problem that may have occurred during the presentation. So like I was saying, after explaining why Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel are not enough, we will be jumping to a short demonstration of Visual Requirements, Visual Solution tool for requirements engineering, and we will be focusing this short demonstration on the difference between a professional requirements tool and Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Finally, at the end of the webinar, we have some time for the conclusions and the questions and answer section. Okay, so let's start directly with introducing the company, introduction Visual Solutions. Visual is a company specialized in requirements engineering for both system engineering and software engineering companies, because at the end requirements are in both. Even if you're building a system, an airplane, and a car, I don't know, a mobile phone, or even if you're building a software, requirements are there anyway. So we pick the best of both worlds and put that into our tool. Okay, we are manufacturer and distributor of visual requirement, our leading requirement solutions. But not only that, we also offer different trainings and different certifications around requirements. Our headquarters is located in San Francisco in the United States, and we have also offices in the UK, Spain, and Germany. Here in this slide, you can see a set of our main customers that, as you can see again, are coming from both worlds, the software engineering world and the system engineering world. So we have got customers in automotive, aerospace, finance, insurance, telecommunications, and so on and so on. Okay. And like a promise, this is going to be a really light introduction about the company. And after that, we are going to jump directly to the first part of the webinar, which is going to be why are my requirements so important? Why we should manage requirements? Okay. Here you can see a chart from the chaos report performed by the Standards Group. This one here is from 2009, but it's not so different from the most recent studies. Okay, basically this Standards Group, this consultancy group, study a huge set of software project, system project, and they just categorize these projects at the end of the project into three categories. If they have been a successful project, meaning that they have finished on time, on budget, and with the expected features. If it's been a challenge project, meaning that probably the project has finished but not on time, not on budget, or if the project has completely failed. Okay, so as you can see, only 32% of those projects finalize successfully. Okay, the reason for the fail and challenge project are different ones, but as you can see here, the most common reasons are somehow directly or indirectly related with the requirements. So for example, one of the main reasons for project failure are the incomplete requirements, okay, and also the change in requirements. So many times we develop something that it was not what the customer was expecting, or the customer was missing some requirements, then we finally skip them, and at the end we present the product and we are missing features, we are missing things. So those things directly related with requirement, incomplete requirement and changing requirement. But other, like probably the lack of resources and the unrealistic expectations, are somehow related with the requirements. If we create a more complete, a more proper requirements specification, we will be able to allocate more resources, or the proper resources, and also manage in a better way the expectations of the customers. So as you can see, everything, almost everything is related with the requirements. Another interesting chart when talking about the requirement is this one related with the fixing cost of a requirement, the cost of fixing a requirement, sorry. This has been extracted from some studies from James Martin and Barry Bohem. Basically, this chart is telling us that if there is an error, a bug in the requirements step, and we discover that error during the requirement step, during the same step, it's going to cost us, for example, $1 to fix that. Okay, so that is going to be our relative cost, $1. Instead of discovering that same mistake, that same error in the design, instead of discovering that in the requirements step, we discover that into the design step. Instead of $1, it's going to be like $2 or $3 to fix that, because it's going to be more expensive. We have to go back to requirements, fix that, and then go to the design again. If we discover that during the coding step, it's going to be even more expensive, maybe $4 or $5, because we have to, again, go to requirements, go to design, repeat things that we have already done, and so on and so on. So the later we discover an error in the requirements step, the more expensive it's going to be to fix that. And at the end, if we discover an error in the operation step, let's say that we perform some testing, that's all, we develop, we deliver the software, we deliver the system, and the customer start using it, and after starting using it, he discovered there is something missing in here that we were requesting in the requirements. So now it's going to be like 70 times more expensive discovering that during the operation step than during the requirements step. Okay, so what I try to illustrate here is that discovering problems in the requirements during the requirements step is so much cheaper to fix than in any other step. So we must spend some extra time, some extra money, some extra effort in the requirements step looking for problems that in future stages. Maybe it's going to be more expensive to do that at the beginning, but at the end it's going to be so much cheaper than discovering that in a different step. Okay? So let's figure out, let's imagine that I have been able to convince all of you that the requirements are super important are key for project success for both system and software engineering. Probably all of you are already aware, and that's why you are here, but let's just figure out that we already know that. So my requirements are really, really important. I have to spend time with my requirement, I have to manage my requirement, I have to work with my requirement. That's great, that's fine. So the next question, and the question that is going to motivate this webinar, can I manage my requirement with Word and Excel? Let's say that the short answer is going to be no, and the long one is going to be yes, but. Okay. For explaining this more in detail, I read some time ago this great example in a software engineering blog about this guy. He was a business analyst, and his son, was getting married, and along with his wife, he was preparing a wedding list with the different guests for the wedding. Okay, so they started doing that into Microsoft Word. So they started writing down names. This cousin is coming. The grandma is coming. Those friends from our child are coming. And after some time, they discovered that they have got hundreds of names, but everything is mixed. Okay, they don't have any kind of sorting order or whatever, and it's so difficult to find. We have already invited these cousins in here, or how we can group them together. So instead of doing that, they moved that list, that wedding list, that guest list, to a Microsoft Excel document. And they discovered that Microsoft Excel was so much better for that, because they may have the names in one column and also the relative kind in another. They are a friend, they are cousins, they are coming from the bride side or from the husband side. Or they can also arrange if they are coming from abroad and they have to stay overnight, or they have a special menu or whatever. So using the different properties for Microsoft Excel, it was so much easier, so much better to work with those guests. Okay, something similar, but in a different, huger scale happened with the requirements. If we work with Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, it's fine. It's a good starting point, but eventually we will discover that we will be missing things, we are losing things for using the inappropriate tool. Okay, in the case of the wedding list, Microsoft Word was not enough, Excel was enough. In the case of the requirement, neither Word nor Excel are enough, because we are going to miss a lot of features, a lot of things that will be super helpful when working with requirements. Okay, what kind of things? Well, this is an incomplete list, but some of them is that we are lacking a real process in Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Okay, there is no requirement process behind that. Anyone can change anything in a Word document or in an Excel document. Of course, we can assign different access rights to the Word documents, but it's going to be for the whole for the whole document, not different section, not different type of requirements. So if you can read them, or you can write one of them, you can modify whatever. So who can change what and when? We cannot control that. What can be related with what? Because relationships are super important in the requirements. We have to relate the requirements with tests. We have to relate the requirements with other requirements. We have to relate the requirements with their origin, with everything. But anyone can do anything in a Word or an Excel document. There is no real traceability. And like I was mentioning, traceability is super important when working with a requirement. And traceability when working in Word or Excel, in the best case, is going to be a field or text letting you know the relationships. So this one is related with this one, and that's all. Someone has to keep that updated, and in the other end also. So it's going to be really easy to forget that, and it's not going to be a real traceability that I can use to exploit that information to navigate or whatever. Okay. Change management and versioning. Like I was mentioning, anyone can change anything, and there is no trace of that. We can create different versions of the document, but it's going to be several versions of the whole document, not different version for each requirement, and there is no control who changes this. It's going to be really difficult to keep all that thing track, all that thing in mind. Okay. There are, of course, much more things that we are going to miss when working with Word and Excel. I will be pointing that during the following demonstration. But another important one is that working with Word and Excel, it's like working with islands of information. At the end, we finish with several autonomous Word and Excel documents. They are related, they are dependent, but there is no real connection between them. Maybe not only Word and Excel, but also Microsoft Outlook emails and things like that. Because, okay, we have write down some requirements in here and some other requirements in there or whatever. There is no real source of truth for everything. There is no real database storing all that information. Okay, so at the end, it's going to be different islands of information that are unconnected and are going to be really difficult to follow. Okay, so working with a professional requirements tool is going to fix all of these things. Okay, so that's when Visual Requirements comes from help. Okay, Visual Requirements is a professional requirements tool that, as I will showing you in the following demonstration, is going to be helping us in all these key aspects of managing requirements. Okay, some of the key differentiator when working with Visual Requirements are those three listed in here. It's a process-oriented tool, it's a collaborative tool, and it's a tool about quality for both my requirements and the product that they're going to produce. Okay. Regarding the process, beg your pardon. Regarding the process, as I mentioned before, there is no real process in Word and Excel, but there is a real process in Visual Requirement. I can establish who are going to be the users that can create this type of requirement, who can read them, who can modify them, who can create a low-level requirement out of those requirements, or who are going to be the tester that are going to be able to read those requirements and write down test trace with those requirements, but they won't be able to modify the requirement, just read them, or things like that. And when are going to be able, once they are in a given status, they will be able to modify this or modify that, or things like that. So there's going to be a real process that we can define, that we can adapt to the tool. The tool, in fact, is not going to force us to use any process. We are going to be able to just pick the current process we are using and put that into the tool. You can see here a little diagram saying that we have got requirement that can be divided into functional and non-functional. This is just a silly example of what we can get with the tool. But basically, the Metamodel that we already have for the requirements, we may have user requirement and system requirement, or may have several levels of requirement, user, system, subsystem, components, whatever. All that can be translated, can be put into the tool, and the tool is going to enforce us to follow that process, but not the other way around. The tool is not going to force us to follow its own process. We're just going to translate or put our current process, even the process that we are following on paper or theoretically in Word and Excel, and put that into the tool. The tool is going to enforce us to follow that. Visual Requirement is also all about a collaborative environment, because requirements are collaborative work. Okay, there are different roles working with the requirement. We have tester, business analyst, system engineer. A lot of people are going to be able to access the requirement with different access rights and with different things to do. They will have different tasks with the requirement. They may have different rights. They may have different views or different ways to manage the information. So we can control all of that into the tool. Okay, and present the information in several ways, not just always a Word document or an Excel document in which we can as much the most we can do is just hide some column. Here we can configure everything, what we are going to see and how we are going to see that. And finally, it's also all about quality. Okay, we can perform analysis about the impact of a change before performing the change. Exactly, if I change this, what is going to be affected, which test I need to run again, which requirement I need to rewrite, or at least analyze if they are going to be affected, or things like that are not going to be supported in Excel or in Word. Okay, so taking all that into account, this requirement, a professional requirement tool, is going to be so much better for managing my requirement than Word and Excel. And what we are going to do is just show you all of that into the tool itself, because using PowerPoint is fine, but PowerPoint is going to support everything. So what I'm going to do is just close or leave here the presentation and just open this requirement so I can show you, so I can show all of you in a short demonstration what we can achieve, what we can get when working with my requirements in a professional tool. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just select one of my available projects and open this project with already created role. I have configured for this project several roles, and one of those roles is the business analyst. In this project, the business analyst is going to be in charge of creating the high-level requirement, let's say the user requirement, those that are more close to the user needs. Of course, that can be configured. We can create as many roles as we want with the different access, with the different responsibilities. But in this case, I have created a business analyst as a role. And if I enter into the tool, what we are going to see is that at the beginning, we have probably nothing, because I haven't uploaded a lot of requirements yet into this project. Okay, so as you can see here, it's basically an empty document. So what I'm going to do, first of all, as this is just why Excel and Word are not enough, I'm going to start working with my requirement into an Excel document. So if I go here, you can see that I have got an Excel document that I am just opening right now that contains several requirements. Okay, so what we are going to do first is just take this Excel document with I don't know how many requirements, 21 requirements, and I'm going to import all this information into my project. Okay, because probably you already have a lot of requirements into Word and Excel, and you don't want to skip them or forget about them. You want to move them to the tool if you are planning on using a tool. So what I'm going to do is just go to the project menu, click on import, and the tool is going to allow me to automatically import sets of requirements coming from Microsoft Word, coming from Microsoft Excel, and even from XML format, XRI, which is a type of XML format for requirements exchange. And I'm going to be able to automatically import all of them. So I'm going to select the document I have got here, the Excel document. I'm going to close it because the tool will need to take the document. And what I'm going to do is just configure exactly how I'm going to perform the import. In this case, I have already saved the configuration, so I don't have to go step by step. So just show you pretty fast, pretty quickly how I can do it. Basically, when importing an Excel document, what I'm going to do is just perform a mapping between the different columns and the different fields into the tool. So the column name is going to be the name of the requirements, the description column is going to be the description, and so on and so on. So we just perform a mapping between the different fields and columns. And after that, the tool is going to automatically parse the document, the whole document. And not just that, but it's going to also compare the requirements that I am importing right now with those requirements that are already into the tool. Okay, in this case, it's almost an empty project, so it's going to be no match for the requirements. So all of the requirements are going to be new requirements. Okay, as you are going to be able to see in just a couple of seconds, those requirements are going to be marked as new requirements. If the requirements already exist into the tool, the tool itself is going to tell me those requirements already exist, so you now must somehow take a decision. You want to upgrade them to the version you're importing from the Word document or the Excel document, or you want to keep the old version, whatever. As I was mentioning, as all of them are new requirements, I don't need to take any decision, just import in as new requirement, click on next, and now I will be able to just perform not perform, sorry. I will be able to assign the access rights for all those requirements. I'm going to delete the default access rights and just insert the requirement automatically into the tool. So now, after a few seconds, the tool is going to the import tool is going to analyze the requirement and start creating those requirements automatically into Visor. Okay, so after the process is finished, I will be able to just go back to the tool, go back to Visor requirements, refresh, and all the requirements that I have imported from Microsoft Excel will be automatically there. So I will be able to start working into my project in Visor requirements with all the requirements that I have imported from Excel. Also taking into account that I will be able to create different views that even resembles to the Excel document. So the transition is not going to be so hard. The impact of the change is not going to be so hard. But anyway, it's going to be a huge difference by means of the process behind, the elements that I'm going to manage, the database that is behind all of these, and things like that. Okay, so I can keep the transition to the tool, the impact as minimum, using a similar interface, a similar user interface. But behind all that, there is a real tool, there is a real database that is going to help me with all these changes, okay, with all these requirements. So I'm just about to finish with the import process. It's just almost done. Just a couple of extra seconds, and we will be finishing. And there we go. So now I can click on finish, and I can save the configuration for further imports. In this case, I have already saved it, so close. I don't want to capture new requirements. So now if I go back to the tool and just refresh, okay, I can refresh the data, and I will be able to just see in the current view all the requirements that I have imported from the Excel document are now into the tool itself. Okay, you can see that with the exact same fields, the code, the name, the expected benefit, the expected cost, origin, priority, description, and so on and so on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that before going any further, I want to show you exactly how I am working with this project through the Metamodel of the project. Okay, this Metamodel, which is this one in here, can be configured, can be tailored to fit the current way of working that you are following with your requirements. So for this project, I have created this from scratch, and I have established that I am going to have two levels of requirements. I will have user requirements, which are my high-level requirements, and then I will have, related with them, of course, the low-level requirements, which are going to be the system requirements. For the user requirements, I'm going to classify them into customer requirement, marketing requirement, standards, and business rules. And also the customer requirements are going to be classified into two subtypes: the Word requirements, which are the requirements coming from Word, and the Excel requirements. Okay, though that classification has been made by myself in order to support this webinar. Okay, so we have got the user requirements that are going to be managed by this user I have used, the business analyst. Okay, and after that, once we have finished working with the user requirements, there is going to be a different role, which is going to be a system engineer. Once again, that's something that I have created. And this system engineer is going to be able to work with the system requirement. He is going to analyze the user requirement, the high-level requirement, and based on that information, he will be able to write down system requirement that, of course, can be classified into, in this case, functional and non-functional requirement. And finally, the system requirements are going to be validated by system test. So as you can see, this is just a silly example of what we can get, but of course we can support different processes and different way of working with information. Maybe we have a more agile approach, like this one I'm going to show you, with the product backlog, with the user stories, with the sprints. If we are a software factory, more agile oriented, okay, that's also supported. Basically, this meta modeling here is going to be created by us following our current way of working, okay? And in fact, we have seen that the initial view, which is this Excel-like view, it's having now all the requirements coming from Excel. But I'm also able to navigate to a different view that I have created, which is a Word requirements view that contain requirements coming from Word. In this case, I haven't imported any requirement from Word yet. So what I'm going to do is just show you that we can do exactly the same that we have done with the Microsoft Excel project, but with a Microsoft Word document. Okay, I'm going to show you this document in here that, as you can see, contain a front page, a table of contents, and then we have got some customer requirements, all of them with a code, a name, and a description, and a priority. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just pick this document. Instead of the Excel one, I'm going to pick the Word document one. Here it is, open. And I'm going to automatically import this document. In this case, instead of importing the or instead of mapping the different columns with fields into the tool, the mapping is going to be performed based on the Microsoft Word styles. So I'm going to say everything that is in the style heading 1 is going to be the code. Everything in the style heading 2 is going to be the name, or something like that. Okay, so using that mapping, I will be able to capture all the requirements coming from this Microsoft Word document, which are like 6 requirements or something like that. It's a small document. And once again, I will be comparing all of those requirements with the one that I have already got into the tool, and I will be able to automatically get a change report letting me know if those requirements are new requirements, if those requirements that I am gathering exist already in the tool and I am updating them or whatever. Once again, in this case, all of the requirements are going to be new requirements. So you can see that it's found in requirement right now. So this is 6 new requirements, click on next, and I will be able to automatically capture all that information and move that information from the Microsoft Word document directly to the Word document. In order to keep it more simple, I think that I'm going to skip the import process because it's not going to take long, but we have limited time. So in the next step, I'm going to cancel this, I think. Yes, I'm going to cancel. And I'm going to continue with the demonstration just without importing Word requirements because I want to show you a couple of extra things and I don't want to run out of time. So another important thing is that, as you can see, we can work with the Excel requirement, but we can work with the Excel requirement in a complete different view, in a complete different way. Once we have got them into the tool, we are not forced anymore to work with them as if I am in an Excel document. I can go here and just create this structure with all the user requirements. If you remember, they were classified into marketing requirement, business rule, standard, and customer requirement. And those customer requirements are classified in Word requirement, which is now empty, and Excel requirement, and also some directly some customer requirement themselves. But in the Excel requirement section, I will have all the requirements that I have imported from the Excel document. And I can see them now, instead of in an Excel-like way, in a more Microsoft Word oriented way. Okay, and once I have got the requirements in here, I can easily change them or modify them. How exactly? Well, for that, visual requirements comes with a complete check-in, check-out mechanism. Okay, if this were a Microsoft Word document or a Microsoft Excel document, any user that is able to enter into the document well, in fact, the first user that entered into the document is going to be able to modify the requirements. Other users will be able to see that, but it's going to be in read-only mode because the first one is blocking the requirement. In this case, in this professional tool, there is a check-in, check-out mechanism, meaning that if I want to modify a requirement, first of all, I need to check it out. Okay, and as you will be able to see, this is going to put the requirement in white with a green lock here. And now that the requirement is checked out by me, sorry, I will be able to modify its properties, changing the priority. I'm going to change the naming here also. Change. And I'm going to change also, I don't know, maybe the description. Why not? Okay, just by double clicking here. In fact, the description for each document is like a little word or yeah, an RTF document. I can change here whatever I want, whatever I need. This is a change. Okay, there you go. And while I am changing this, while the requirement is checked out by me, other users will be able to see the requirements, but they won't be able to modify it. They can change the requirement next to it, but not this one, because I am blocking these specific requirements. And once I've finished, I can check the requirement in, making it available for other users, so they will be able to enter now into the tool and start modifying this very same requirement. Okay. Additionally, every time I perform this check-in, check-out cycle, a new version of the requirement has been created. So you can check here in the history section, in the version section, that for this requirement, I have got a new version created today by the user BA, business analyst, with some changes. I can compare this version with a previous one in a nice looking change management. Okay, and as you can see here, I have changed the name with the word change. The date of the modification has been, of course, modified. The priority has been modified, and also the description. And for the description, I can even enter here and see exactly the changes for the description. Okay, so this is really helpful for highlighting the difference between both tools. Between both versions of the requirement. Okay, and this is something really helpful because I can perform this kind of analysis at each element level, exactly who changes the requirement, when it was changes, what has been modified in this requirement, and so on and so on. Okay, I can even compare a whole specification with a different specification. Just okay, let's see exactly which requirements are new, which requirements have been modified, which requirements have been deleted, whatever. Okay, and when creating the requirements, of course, I can create them by importing from Excel or Word, or I can just creating them by adding them into the tool directly. That's of course also supported. For that, I can just go here and select a template for creating the requirements. Those templates are going to be based on my current user rights. So as a business analyst, I am able to create customer requirements and marketing requirements. So I'm going to create this new one here. The system shall be able to create, I don't know, new users, for example. The requirement is going to be called add users. Okay, I can change attributes, I can change priorities, whatever I need. Take into account that all these attributes related with the requirement has been created by myself. Okay, so we can customize that, we can create new attributes or whatever we need. Now that I have done all this, the requirements is going to be created and added to the corresponding section. Okay, in this case to the customer requirements. Here it is at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so once I finish with the requirement, I can check it in, and it will be available for all the users. Okay, so for continuing with the demo, what I'm going to do just now is close this project for the user business analyst. And instead of working as a business analyst, I'm going to work as a system engineer. Okay, the system engineer interface is pretty similar. I have configured this in that way, that the system engineer interface is pretty similar to the business analyst one, but it's not exactly the same. The information that they are going to see contains more items. Instead of watching just the user requirements, the system engineer are going to be able to watch both the user requirements and also the system requirements. Even the system test can be analyzed by them. Okay, So as you can see here, I have got the user requirement section just like before, but also I have add some extra section in here for this user, which are the system requirements and the system test. Of course, they can work in a Microsoft Word style one, Microsoft Word like view, but they can work in different ways. Maybe use a view for analyzing in a Microsoft Excel fashion way the user requirements. That can be, of course, done. I'm going to open that. Or maybe, I don't know, they want to analyze the system specification or the system requirement list in a Microsoft Excel like view also. Okay, with the different columns and different sections, but now working only with the system requirements. And finally, a view that is going to be really helpful is the impact analysis view. Through this view, I'm going to be able to create a traceability tree of my whole project. I'm going to be able to highlight, see all the traces in my project. I will be able to see how the user requirements are fulfilled or are going to be fulfilled by means of system requirements. So as you can see here, under each first level requirement, or under some of them, of course, if I don't have for any one of them, I have this this little symbol letting me know that there is one or more requirements that are related with this one. And this one in here is a business requirement, and this one just below it is a system requirement, which is in fact fulfilling that user requirement. So from here, I can create a traceability tree, a traceability view of all the traces that I have got into my project. Okay. And also, in fact, you can see that here I have got the add user requirement that I have created just a moment ago. And right now, this requirement is not yet fulfilled because I haven't explored this requirement. I haven't explained it with some system requirements. So what I'm going to do is just, as a system engineer, I'm going to select this user requirement and I'm going to add a new system requirement, which is going to fulfill, which is going to solve, let's say, this user requirement. Okay. As you can see, as a system engineer, I am only allowed to create system requirements out of the previous one. I'm going to leave all the default information, all the default template. Okay. And just by doing this, I'm going to automatically create a related system requirement, which is going to be related, of course, with this user requirement. And they are going to be trace. The business analyst will be able afterward to enter into the specification and see that the requirement that he just created a moment ago is now fulfilled by a new system requirement. Okay, here it is, the new system requirement. And for these system requirements, as you can see, there is a status attribute. Okay, this is new. The user requirement doesn't have a status and and the system requirements, they do have a status. So this is another attribute. The initial value is ready for review, and I'm going to change that. I'm in the ready for review status, and I can go now to the review at the status. Okay, that's fine. I have, let's say that I have review already this requirement. And from this review status, I'm going to be able to switch to a different one, for example, to on hold, to reject, to approve. So basically, depending on the current status of the requirement, I will be able to switch to a different subset of a status. This is because we have created a workflow associated with the status attribute. Okay, by means of this workflow, we can also encourage the process because we can define the different states that the requirement must be following. So first of all, I create the requirement and it's going to be, beg your pardon, it's not this view, it's the attribute workflow one. So I will be able to create or to define the different status that the different states that the requirement is going to be going through. So for example, when I create the requirement, it's going to be in this status ready for review, then it's going to be review, then it's going to be approved or rejected or whatever. Okay, let me show you this one with the diagram themselves. So from here, I can configure the different transition, and I can even configure which users are going to be able to perform the transition. So only the system engineer will be able to accept or to reject a requirement. Only then will be able to whatever. Okay, and I can even associate a script to the transition. So So the requirements are going to be, for example, an email is going to be automatically sent every time I reject a requirement, or a test is going to be automatically set to the status whatever every time I modify the requirements associated to that, something like that. Okay. There are several ways for analyzing the traceability into the tool. Allow me to go back to the business analyst user. I commented just a moment ago that he's also now able to see directly into their views that into his views that some new requirements has been created for fulfilling the user requirements that he created. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just very fast. I'm going to open a specific view, which is the traceability view. It's pretty close to the traceability view that the system engineer was using, but it contains a couple of extra columns with some graph, with some visual information about the status of the requirements. Okay, so it's calculating the column right now. If you remember, for the user requirements, we don't have a status. We do have a status for the system requirements, but not for the user requirement, not for the high-level requirement. So what we have done with this graphical column that I'm about to show you is that for the system requirements, we have created a percentage bar, a completed bar, which display based on the status of the requirement. Display is if the requirement is 100% completed, it's 0% completed, but it's just a direct translation of the status here. It's pending or it's on hold, it's 0%. It's approved, it's 100%, something like that. Okay. But for the user requirements, we don't have that kind of status attribute to calculate that graphic. So what we are going to do for them is just create or calculate automatically the status of the requirements based on the status of the related one. So a user requirement is going to be 100% completed if all the system requirements related with the user requirements are already in the accepted or in the approved status. Okay, so we can add this kind of calculations, we can add this kind of features because there is a real traceability into the tool. We can use that to navigate, we can use that to see exactly how the user requirements are being fulfilled by means of system requirements and things like that. Okay, so these kind of things, I cannot do that into a Word and Excel document because I don't have real traceability in one of those documents. Okay, so those kind of features can be highlighted or can be used into a tool like this, but not into Word or Excel. Okay, so this is going to be one of the different quality analysis that I can perform directly into the tool. We are running a bit out of time. I would like to show you a couple of extra features in the tool, but sadly we are running out of time. I would like to show you also how we can export the information to automatically also to Microsoft Word, to Microsoft Excel. Well, let's finish with this and I will show you that. Okay, so as you can see here, this completed bar, it's letting me know, as I mentioned before, the status of each requirement based on the status of the related requirements. Okay, and my add user requirement is in fact 100% complete because it contains one system requirement which is related and it's already in the approved status or in the accepted status. Okay, so we can do that kind of traceability analysis from here. So like I was saying, we are running out of time, but I would like to show you also how we can easily and also automatically pick one of the views that we have got into the tool and just automatically export all of that to Microsoft Excel or to Microsoft Word. Okay, for example, probably not this one, but for example, this one, which in fact resembles a lot to the original Word document or Excel document that I was importing. I can just arrange exactly the information I want. I'm going to delete that and delete that, and just click on here. And this is what you see is what you get type of export. I'm going to automatically get all this information into an Excel document. Okay, and the same goes for a Word document. I can automatically select one of the Word-like view, and by clicking into a button, automatically export all that information to Microsoft Word and to Microsoft Excel. And in a format that is friendly with the import tool, so I will be able to afterward import that back. In fact, if you see this, you can see that it's pretty close to the document that I have imported just a moment ago. Okay. Apart from this direct export, there is also the possibility to create more complex reports into the tool. Once the information is there, is in a database, I can just create my own reports or create my own charts with all this information. For example, I can create a traceability report containing all the traceability information of the project. Okay, for example, how the user requirements are related with system requirements, how the system requirements are related with test, the status of each test, and even calculate the status of the user requirement based on the status of the test that are not directly related with them, but indirectly related through the system requirements. In fact, that is the report that I am generating right now. Okay, it's going to take a couple of extra seconds to be generated, but I would like to show you that feature also. That's something that once again is a big difference from Word or Excel. It's once the information is here, I can present the information to the user in the way I want, or I can create different reports with that information, but I don't have to see that always in the same way, always like this document or always like this spreadsheet. I can just configure the way I want to see that information. Okay, so the report is going to be compiled in just a couple of seconds. Just give it a moment. Here it is. And there you go. We have got a front page, and we have got a list of user requirements under each user requirement, the system requirements which are related with them, if any. And after that, the test related with the system requirements, if any. And then the status of the system requirements and the user requirement is automatically calculated based on the status of the tests. Okay. And even at the end of the document, I get a couple of charts letting me know the status of each user requirement based on the status of the indirectly related test. Okay. There are much more features into the tool that will allow me to perform impact analysis, see exactly, okay, you have modified these user requirements, and now I'm going to highlight the system requirements that may be impacted by that change, or that you have to review in order to see that. But I don't like to go further because we are running out of time. So I'm going to jump directly back to the slides, back to the conclusions, and then we can go to the question and answer sections. Okay. So what we have seen in today's webinar is that Word and Excel are a good starting point for managing my requirements, but at the end, when I really want to get something of those requirements, I'm going to miss a lot of features, miss a lot of things. There is no repeatable process. There is no source of truth. There's no database behind them. There is no change management or version control, no multiple users that can work with the same elements, no reporting, no dashboard, no, and so on and so on. I don't want to go point by point because we have already seen that. And also, from the business point of view, investing in a requirements tool is going to give you some return, okay? Because it's going to be a reduction in cost. It's going to be more expensive at the beginning of the project because you have to spend more time with the requirements. But at the end, you will end by saving money, because it's going to be, as we have seen, it's cheaper to spend some extra time at the beginning and not to spend a lot of time at the end fixing that. It's going to improve the quality of the requirement themselves and also the product that we are producing. It's going to reduce the time of market for my products, and it's going to, of course, increase the level of customer satisfaction. And basically that is what I wanted to show you today. I will have like to spend some extra time with the tool, but there is only 1 hour, and I would like to spend also some time with the question and answer section. So I would like to remind all of you that you can post any question that you currently have using the questioning tab in the GoToWebinar interface. And I would like to also remind you that I was recording this webinar, and in fact I'm going to stop the recording, so the webinar that we are going to upload is not going to contain the questions and the answers. Okay, so in order to keep it shorter. So I'm going to just say goodbye for those that are watching the webinar from YouTube or any other channel. And now we are going to move to the question and answer section.